What is good, everyone? Welcome to the channel. My name is Paul and I make videos about Japanese society, life, and culture from the viewpoint of a long-term foreign resident. I've been in Japan 18 years and I'm going to be making a video today dispelling some of the myths or misperceptions that many people have about Japan. And I use the word misperception on purpose because this might be things that you will see and experience personally and believe them to be true, but in actuality, it's not the case. I'm going to be talking about 5 such misperceptions today. 2 of them are going to be positive things that you might believe that are actually negative in reality. 2 of them will be negative things you might believe that are actually positive in reality. And one of them is just kind of silly. Before I get into them though, I want to say that I have been thinking about ways to grow this channel, and I've decided that the best way I really can do that is to hire former Vice President Al Gore to do drum solos during each episode. Why? Because we all know that all-important Al Gore rhythm is the key to YouTube success. Okay, I probably lost 50 subscribers with that peak dad joke, but if at any point during this video you like what you're hearing, please hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and share the channel to people who you think might be interested in kind of insightful commentary about Japan that goes beyond the usual 10 things to do in Tokyo type videos. Okay, the first misperception, I'm going to start with a positive one, or a net positive, I guess, what turns positive. And that is, people have this misperception that Japanese men are unwilling or unable or averse to dating foreign women. Because you walk around Tokyo, Yokohama, etc., and you see lots of like white guys with Japanese girls, and you think that most mixed couples are that way. And the fact is, if you actually get into the statistics of mixed marriages in Japan, you'll find that the vast majority are actually Japanese men with foreign women. What's happening there is that the foreign women are usually from China or Korea, the Philippines, or other Asian countries, so that when you see them as a couple, it might not register that it's a mixed international kokusai marriage, right? So the perception that you might have, or the stereotype that it's all foreign guys with Japanese women, it's actually not correct. So we can lay to rest that stereotype that Japanese men are unwilling to date or marry foreign women. Okay, the next one. This is one where you could live in Japan for a while and feel like it's true, but I'm going to let you know that there's a bit of falsity to it, and that is Japan is clean stereotype. Now, if you come here as a tourist or you live in the cities, that will certainly probably be your experience, because Japanese cities are very clean, especially compared to their North American and European counterparts. But the thing is, the lack of litter and graffiti and things in the cities is largely born out from the meiwaku culture, basically avoiding being troublesome to others, and throwing garbage and doing graffiti is troublesome to other people. And so people are very careful. Japanese people are very careful about sorting garbage and throwing things away and not littering on the street. However, when you get away from places that it would be meiwaku or troublesome to others to throw away garbage, Japanese litter just as much as anyone else. If you get out into the countryside, everywhere I've ever been hiking ever has had trash. Trash that has been, dumped, like we're talking appliances, we're talking, bags from the convenience store with the leftover plastic from the lunch, etc. Like, people just dump trash in the countryside rather than the cities. If you don't believe me, I made a whole video about this where I walked around a kind of rural area that has a lot of trash. Just, you can see that video as proof. I'll link it below. If you're outside the city, Japan isn't as clean as you might think. The point being is, neither Americans nor Japanese are perfect about this. We can all be better about taking care of our litter and keeping our environment clean. Okay, let's go back the other way to a positive one. You may have heard stories or even had a few experiences yourself with the dreaded government bureaucracy in Japan. Like the image that Japanese bureaucracy is inefficient and slow and a pain in the butt. Certainly horror stories out there exist, but I'm going to say that they are not the majority. For the most part, the bureaucracy, the city officials, etc., they know what they're doing. And as long as you have your stuff in order, you have all the paperwork that's been outlined on the website, etc., things will go very smoothly. It's only a problem if you didn't fill something out or you didn't get a necessary proof of document somewhere else before you go there. Then you're going to have trouble. Basically, the workers I found to be friendly and very helpful when I file my taxes every year, the tax helpers that are at City Hall helping people do the filing, have been magnificent. I always go in fearful that there's going to be some big pain in the butt, but I get out much faster than I think. And recent example would be I got a vaccine passport because there's a chance I might be traveling to a country soon that still requires either a negative test or proof of vaccination. And that was incredibly easy. I went to City Hall, I turned in a couple pieces of paperwork, and I gave them a self-addressed stamped envelope, and 1 week later my vaccine passport arrived in the mail. It really was no trouble at all. Yes, it's kind of a trouble that you have to go to the city office to do these sorts of things. You can't do it through electronic correspondence. There's no e-signing and things like that in Japan. So that is a bit of a pain, but other than that, I haven't had any of these horrible experiences you hear about. And my best example I can give of how the Japan bureaucracy is maligned for not no reason, but more maligned than it should be, is the difference between getting a spousal visa to Japan versus a spousal visa or green card to the US. When we moved to the US for my graduate school, apologies for the somewhat choppy cuts in this video, but there's actually a lot of construction going on in this general neighborhood, so I keep skipping past the construction sites. But when we got the green card for my wife, we had to go to the US Embassy in Tokyo 3 times, and we didn't live in Tokyo, so that was a lot of time and a lot of expense. We had a 4th trip to Tokyo because my wife had to go get a health check at an approved, embassy-approved hospital. And that was another trip that we had to pay for out of pocket. It cost like $5,000 to go through the whole visa process as well, like paid to the embassy, etc. We had to be interviewed. It was just a big pain in the butt, and it costs a lot. It's like, well, no wonder people sneak in illegally, because that was it was horrible. And I understand it's way more expensive now than it used to be. So when I wanted to get my spousal visa to come back to Japan, I filled out one form. My wife filled out one letter of guarantee form. I put those 2 sheets of paper with my passport into an envelope. I included a self-addressed stamp return envelope, and I sent it out to the Chicago, Japan consulate. And I sent it on a Friday, and on Tuesday, my passport came back with my spousal visa inside. The only expense was the postage, and the only paperwork was 2 pages. Amazing. I don't know if it's changed since then. That was, more than 10 years ago, but just night and day, the difference between the US system and the Japan system. So I think maybe the bureaucracy here gets too much flack when they're actually doing a fairly good job with a lot of things. One more negative one, and then a silly one. The negative one is the myth. Well, it's not a myth in total, but the myth that Japan is a safe country. And yes, you're relatively safe from theft and murder and assault and those kinds of violent crimes. However, if you are a woman, you are not safe from basically sexual harassment and being groped on the train, etc. Pretty much every woman I've ever asked the question to or have had been in a discussion about has said, oh yeah, I've been touched on the train. Oh yeah, I've had inappropriate comments directed towards me. Like my friends who are foreigners, foreign female friends have said, oh yeah, there's this stereotype that some Japanese guys have that, you know, Western girls are easy, and so, you know, we've been basically treated like we're going to become some kind of prostitute or something. And so lots of really inappropriate touching and comments. I'm hoping this is a public path. But, and furthermore, like, Japanese female friends, students who have confided in me, like, everyone has been groped on the train at some point. It just seems to be accepted as a fact of life as a woman here. So I'm gathering there might be some women watching this video who are like, well, it never happened to me. And if you came here as a tourist and are obviously a tourist, it probably won't happen to you. But it definitely is something that is going to likely happen to you over time in Japan. And it's something that I don't have to deal with as a man. And so to me, Japan totally fits that image of being a very safe country. But if you're a woman, it can be a very different story. Okay, the final one is the image of Japanese cuisine being this pure, unadulterated, you know, tradition that is always done a certain way, in a perfect way. And probably the most famous example of this would be sushi. The government went so far as to suggest, I think 6 or 7 years ago, that they make a certificate that could be awarded to foreign sushi restaurants in like America and Europe as being authentic or not, because a lot of Japanese look down their noses at things like California rolls and all those crazy rolls you see in America that have like sriracha and avocado and all that kind of stuff. That's not traditional sushi. So like, we can give a certificate to the places that are doing it right, and if they don't have a certificate, they're making fake sushi. But the truth of the matter is, if you go to any kaiten sushi restaurant, basically a conveyor belt sushi restaurant, you're going to find things like hamburger on sushi rice, thinly sliced kalbi beef on sushi rice, and this abomination, corn and mayonnaise. So that doesn't really give Japanese much of a leg to stand on when it comes to saying that sushi is only traditional and must be traditional, because those things most certainly are not. Now granted, I know that a sushi counter, like a real high-end sushi restaurant, is not going to serve those kinds of things. But to say that they don't exist and there aren't these adulterated versions of sushi in Japan is simply not true. Okay, that's the video for today. If you made it this far, you're not subscribed, do it now! Ima desho! And if you haven't hit the like button because you didn't like it, I'm sorry, but I'm going to keep putting out the content. You might see Al Gore next time, and I thank you very much for watching this particular video. See you next time. Peace.